take over.
All right, hang on a second. I've got to get going on YouTube here. There we go. Okay, you're ready to go.
Okay, I'll temporarily pinch hit for Paul. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do we have a quorum? I believe we do. If Paul is participating, so we can move on from there. Let's waive, no, excuse me, do we have members speaking?
Yes, we do. Lindia was going to read Mary Hubbard's letter. Did you all get a copy of Mary Hubbard's letter?
No.
Yes.
Oh, yes, some yes, some no. All right, well, then for the record, and because we are on YouTube, I will go ahead and read it for you since Lindia is not here. There we go. This is from Mary Hubbard in the condos. I would like to start by expressing my appreciation for the hard work done by the board and committees. I'm coming before the board with 3 issues I believe need to be addressed. 1, irrigation project. I feel that there's not been enough information presented to the members of Sterling Oaks community about the scope and details of the proposed irrigation project. The brochure that was sent to all does not address specifics about the detailed scope of the project and the cost per neighborhood. The irrigation project video on the Sterling Oaks YouTube video channel appears roughly and only addresses the deficiencies of the current system and does not speak of the intended repairs, nor does it address the 12 questions it referenced at the beginning of the session. The chat session that I attended via Zoom did not allow interactive remote participation, and not all pre-submitted questions were addressed during the meeting. In my opinion, the individual door responsibility for the cost of the project should not be shared equally as proposed. While the entire community will benefit, different neighborhoods may incur very different project expenses, and those neighborhoods with lower project costs should not subsidize others with higher project costs. An example of this would be the comparison of actual project cost per door in neighborhoods comprised of large numbers of doors in a concentrated area, such as coach homes and condos, that share the responsibility for common spaces. Compare that to the actual project cost per door in neighborhoods comprised of individual homes spread out over much larger areas in which each door may require its own repair. A look at the map on Sterling Oaks neighborhood illustrates the potential inequities. To be fair, I would suggest that each neighborhood be responsible for its own project cost. For those areas outside of the individual neighborhoods and improvements not specific to an individual neighborhood, I would suggest that those expenses be shared equally amongst the entire community. The different expense may be considerable, and that information should be made available to all before a vote is taken. I propose that the vote on the irrigation project be delayed until more information about the project is made available to the members of Sterling Oaks community, and a more equitable and fair solution to the distribution of the cost of the project is presented. Number 2, the pool.
Mark, before you start to interrupt, someone's got TV or radio on. There's all kinds of background noise. Would everybody check and make sure you don't have some background noise?
I think it's Mr. Goodrow. Can you mute him?
It's hard to hear. It's constant noise.
All right, I muted Paul. Lindy, you're back on. All right, can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, here we go. This is number 2. The pool and the gym. The next issue I would like to address is the access of the members of Sterling Oaks community to their most highly valued amenities. The recent survey found that the members highly valued the pool and exercise center. The survey also found that members were not satisfied with the issues of crowding and access. In response to the survey, the board is considering costly options such as adding an additional pool. I would suggest that what seems like the simplest solution, limit the use of the pool and exercise center to the members of Sterling Oaks community and their guests exclusively, not the tennis members. I believe there are proposals to adjust the ability of new tennis members to access the pool and exercise center. I would suggest that any access to all tennis members be eliminated. The community's residents are responsible for the cost of their valued amenities and should be allowed to enjoy them in the least crowded conditions possible. Lastly, communications. I think that the issue of communication should be prioritized. The ability of the community members to participate in remote meetings and information sessions is not adequate, as demonstrated with the irrigation project meeting on 6/12. Members of the Sterling Oaks community are not in residence year-round and are unable to attend meetings in person. Technology is readily available that will allow large numbers of remote participants to fully interact with on-premise attendees in meetings in a moderated fashion. I would suggest that this be implemented to all, so all residents can be heard equally. Thank you for your consideration, Mary Hubbard.
So noted. Thank you very much, Mary. With that, we'll go backwards to Linda for the secretary's report.
Linda, you're muted.
You're muted, Linda.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from the June 8th and the June 15th board meetings.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. We'll now go on to the president's report. There is no president's report at this meeting. We will next go to the general manager's report. Mark?
You all have a copy of my report. I will try to be as brief as possible. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Paul.
We may want to go to action items and take care of that. I don't know how long I can stay with you. And I don't know if we have a quorum or not.
We have a full quorum
We
and
do.
and there's plenty here.
Okay, good.
Okay, well then we'll skip the general manager's report and I will, for now, and I'll do my best to get to the action items. I believe the first action item involves architectural standards, is that correct?
I think so. I have it right here.
So we'll go to the architectural standards and see what actions required.
Okay.
So go ahead, Rick.
All right. First one, 1093 Silver Strand Drive, equipment storage. That's the pergola over the grill. First notice sent out in January, second one in February. They submitted a modification request on the May 2nd. It was denied by the ASC on the 11th, and the equipment storage is still present on the 13th. This one is interesting in that there have been a couple requests for extensions. I'll read this quickly. Back in April, they emailed, this is to Cezanne, we will be arriving by May 1st to oversee the removal of the pergola. We have been on our contractors list as previously written. I will have a more definitive date of removal by then. There remain contractor delays with the aftermath of the hurricane. interestingly, we've got basically the same email on June 15th, basically the same verbiage. Her husband will be arriving from home in New Jersey the week of 6/26, which is next Monday. The contractor needed to reschedule the removal due to continued backup from the hurricane. Please inform the ASC accordingly and confirm no further action, violation, or fine will be applied and the short extension is granted. This thing's been going on for 9 months. I can't believe that they could not find a contractor that could not remove this thing. You know, they're waiting, this excuse about having the delay from the storm is a little bit lame, and the committee, basically, that was their position. I guess I would make a motion to fine the homeowner $100 a day up to 10 days or until the pergola grill cover is removed. And then a motion that if the violation is not corrected within the 10 days, the matter will be deferred to legal counsel to begin legal action against unit owner for compliance.
Okay, is there
Discussion?
is there a second to that motion? So we can have a discussion, needs to be seconded.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Okay, motion has been seconded. It's open for discussion.
Well, I don't know any of the details, but if I look at some of our own projects, and a good example is the sidewall replacement, which has been going on for a number of months. I have some sympathy that if a contractor is going to do that, and even looking at how long it's taking our roof and everything else, I have some sympathy that some of the excuses could be valid. It is awful hard to get contractors. And like I say, is we've had the sidewalk repairs for a number of months and they keep still not done. Okay. So I'm not sure that this isn't a valid, and if it's only been 9 months, I mean, there's been some hurricanes been what,
9 months,
18 months now? 18?
9 months coming up.
Oh, okay. All I'm saying is I have some sympathy that getting contractors to do things is awful difficult.
Is there any other discussion? If there is no further discussion, the motion is up for vote. All in favor of approving the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, raise your hand, say no. One.
No.
Is there two?
Three.
Three, so I guess
Motion passes.
motion passes what, 5-3?
How did Paul vote?
All is in favor of the motion, so 6
Okay,
to
so
3.
it's 6-3 then.
All right, motion passes 6-3. Okay, back to Rick. Any other?
So that was, the second motion was deferring to legal counsel if the violation was not corrected.
I thought you read it all as one motion.
Oh, okay, well, they were actually, yeah, okay. Yeah, there were two different motions there. I didn't know if we should split them or put them all together.
We just passed a motion,
Okay,
fining and deferring.
so,
So
all
I
right,
guess it's
I
done.
think we're fine doing that, believing that the removal will happen sometime next week. We're gonna be fine with the 10 days, so I don't think we have to change that. After that, I think if it's not done, and again, we've given them repeated opportunities to do it, then I believe it should be sent to compliance. Just my opinion.
Yeah, we have a legal process we have to go through, and it has to go to the compliance committee with any fines that are opposed. So we'll do that on our end.
Yeah.
And then if the pergola is not removed after the 10-day of finding, then it'll be deferred to legal counsel to
Okay,
move forward with that.
yeah. So that's giving them, ample more time and believing that if we do believe that they're gonna do this thing next week. Okay,
Okay, Rick, do you have
Good there.
something else?
I do, yes. Next, 1310 Sweetwater Bay. An equipment storage sign needs replaced. This also has a backstory in that it was communicated to the property management company back in early part of the year. And then was communicated in February to the president. The president claims that she never got the letter. And they're also asking for a extension because they are in the middle of transitioning to a new property management company called Cambridge, which will be effective August 1st. So they're asking for an extension to resolve the issues until August 15th. And Cezanne, correct me if I'm wrong here. I looked at the whole list of items, but the only one that seems to be outstanding is this replacement of this sign. Is that correct?
That's the only thing that
Just one.
is outstanding.
So, our position was that she did receive a letter. Maybe she didn't receive a letter. They're asking for a little bit of leeway here.
So I assume that the ASC is in favor of granting this leeway?
There was no recommendation from the ASC.
So do we need a motion? Is
Well-
that what you want to do, Rick?
Well, the motion, I can make a motion which was suggested was the motion to make a replacement sign for the space and charge the sign plus $100 administrative fees to the Sweetwater Bay 3 Association. That would be the motion to do it. If we don't want to do it, I guess we'd have to look at their request to delay it till August 15th.
Well, it would seem to me, it sounds to me as if you're in favor of giving them a little leeway so we could just table this for now. Is that right?
We could,
Is that what you want to do?
okay?
Is that what you want to do?
I think I'm probably fine with that. But giving them some, giving them some leeway in the fact that maybe she didn't receive this thing, although
Yes.
there were repeated communications there.
We two aren't working.
So if that's the case, then there's no motion to second or discuss. Sounds like we're just giving them more leeway. Yes, sir?
Well, I guess I'd like to get other people's opinion on it.
Okay.
What? Why don't you get a second so we can discuss it?
Okay. All right. So that's the motion. I'll make the motion to make a replacement sign for the space and charge the sign plus $100 administrative fees to the Sweetwater Bay 3 Association. That's the motion.
I'll second.
Okay,
Now we can discuss it.
discussion.
Can I
Brownie,
just,
Well,
Brownie.
my question is, if it's not an eyesore and the sign's missing, what requires that we even have the sign? In other words, what's the
The sign
violation?
is not missing. The sign is white because it's faded so bad.
I mean, we used to have a sign, but if we didn't have a sign, do we even need a sign?
Well, that's up to the association to decide if they want to replace their sign or just remove it. But as of now, it's just a white panel that needs to be updated.
Not a safety thing or something, right? So,
But it's still the Architectural Standards Committee's due diligence to do property inspections and to ensure the property is in compliance. And that's what they've done with
Yeah.
this violation since November 2022.
Mark,
yeah, but I don't know where the rule is. Does every association have an equipment sign? And does that require, I mean, is there some regular thing? I don't quite understand. why it's a requirement to even have the sign, and if it's not an eyesore.
It's not a requirement to have the sign. That's up to Sweetwater Bay 3. They can completely remove it if they want. It indicates that these are their guest parking spaces. The sign is now no longer has letters on it. It's faded so bad it's practically just white.
Oh, the
so the
sign is still there then?
Yes.
So,
Oh, okay, it doesn't read that way, okay.
so their issue then is just to determine who gets the parking spaces, and there's not if there's any discussion about, you know, which is guest parking, which is not. Mark?
Was the association, I just removed the sign then.
Did any of you, some of you have now received the letter that Paul Faris from Cambridge Management has set forth about the parking spaces and sidewalks, including the signs and the sub-associations, which he is saying that Collier County appraiser has determined from their vantage point that the sidewalks, all guest spaces and signs are the responsibility of the master association.
Oh, really?
So my question back to them was, if the master association is responsible for all signage, all guest spaces, whatnot, then there will be no dedicated guest spaces for any sub-association in the condominium areas, which I can tell you that Eagle Cove 2, Sweetwater Bay 1, Eagle Cove 1, all have guest spaces that they cherish dearly during season because they don't have the space to be able to have 2 cars on property. So there's something that needs to be said. I applaud Paul for doing what he thinks is right to maybe get some of the responsibility off the back of the associations. However, I think it might go against a precedent that's been set for many years.
Forever.
That allows those individual associations to manage their own guest spaces. So I think that, you know, we have to probably cross that river first and find out whether or not in reality that the master association is responsible, which would be odd to me, seeing that for 20-something years it hasn't. However, and I've asked for a legal opinion on this, not from a county engineer, you know, going over their appraisal maps, which we all know are woefully in error. So that's just my 2 cents.
Could I jump in?
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
So I too have been involved with this with Mark, with the Paul Farisi letter from the assessment, because I know originally Sweetwater Bay 1 was built. It was turned over to us and we were to handle our own parking, guest parking. They gave us a certain number of spots. Then Sweetwater Bay 2 was built, same thing, Sweetwater Bay 3. It wasn't until Crosswinds came in and finished the whole thing off. So we have always managed our own. So that's perfect precedent. But anyway, I think went through with Advanced Properties when we changed to Cambridge, we could not get them to do anything, Advanced Property. So I know that these people, if they do want a sign or want it improved, Advanced Property is not going to do it for them. So if the association decides to do it, I think they ought to just do it, charge them for the sign and not fine them. That's my opinion.
I'll just play devil's advocate for a minute here. If the sign is not replaced and it's faded, it's going to be hard to basically justify that someone was in the right space or the wrong space. It's going to be a lot of confusion.
Right.
So either it's like take it away entirely or get a new one clearly dictating where those spaces are, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of upset residents there.
Yeah, I mean, I say replace it for them if they don't do it, but
Okay.
give them a chance to have Cambridge do it, because Cambridge will
Okay.
do it.
Okay. So do we want to, I guess we can defer this until, I guess we could accept their recommendation for extension till August 15th.
And is someone gonna have them get the sign then? Who,
They're gonna replace it.
Okay, but I mean, we're gonna make.
Yeah, well, it said Cambridge starts August 1st, so they would have time to do
Yeah.
it, right? Before the 15th, 2 weeks. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that sounds good, Rick.
Okay.
So your preference, Rick, is to
Yeah,
defeat
I'll-
the
Yeah, I'll-
motion and then
Yeah,
defer
I'll withdraw that
the
motion.
issue. You're withdrawing the motion, okay? And you're saying
I-
you'd like to defer further action until,
Till Cambridge
The
Property
August-
Management comes aboard.
I've got a question for Mark, to his comment about what this guy said we were supposed to do. If you look at the plot, are those parking spots in the different condo associations on the site plot?
I-
Yes,
I can't, I haven't seen the map or anything that they've referred to, so from our standpoint.
I'm not what they refer to, just from our own knowledge. I always thought that the condo association plots included their parking areas.
Me too.
Then there's no reason the master association should have any responsibility for that then. We don't have any other responsibilities for them, right? So I don't know
That's why
who
I've
this
asked-
guy
that's why I've
is.
asked for an
He's
opinion.
not a judge or anything. I think we should ignore it.
how about we just, I mean, the motion has been withdrawn. Rick is proposing that we just defer it until August 15th. I guess in the interim, to clear up this whole issue about who's responsible, we ought to get an opinion from our attorney.
We've already asked for one, right?
I don't know. Have we asked for one, Mark?
No,
I
I've asked for Cambridge to give us a legal opinion based on our declarations, and our documents, not from the county's aerial view of their appraisal maps.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, I want them to spend the money, not us.
okay.
All right, that's fine. Fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe we've handled this particular issue, Rick. We're deferring
Yes,
it.
we have. Yes,
Okay,
I have three
is there
more.
anything else?
3 more quickly to discuss.
Okay,
Other units with outstanding past due violations. 14552 Sterling Oaks Drive, that's that house on the double lot heading toward the back gate.
yes,
Hein Brothers are contracted to assist with bringing the multiple violations in compliance. I did see somebody out there doing some power washing. I know there's roof damage. Roof has damage that the association will need to determine how to fix and repair. That one is past due. I don't know how far past due, but it's one that
These
they're
are just-
watching.
Those are just notes that I had in there. No action are needed on these items.
Okay. Do you want me to read the next two?
You can, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Sure. 1322 Silver Strand Drive, Hein Brothers is on standby to correct the driveway. However, Cezanne has requested a firm cost and is looking at alternatives to be best cost effective for the homeowner. And 1688 Sanctuary Point Drive. This was one, the owner was looking for delivery on some tiles that were pushed back. Now the roof is currently being replaced to satisfy the outstanding roof violation. And then the ASC is currently reviewing the architectural standards and maintenance standards. Once complete, the ASC will submit all the changes to the Board of Directors for review and approval. And that is an ongoing process.
okay, no action is required. Is there anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, our next item for action, I suppose, would be the Marsh project.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
And basically, I'm reading from what Mark has written in his report. the Marsh project has received a green light from both the state and the county. Bids to provide a water passageway and new plantings around the marsh are attached. It is recommended that we use GWE to be the vendor, as they have included both an 80% guarantee on the plants and a 2-year follow-up program to keep the waterways open and clean. So in order to discuss things here, I would make a motion that we approve GWE as the vendor for the Marsh project at a cost of, trying to find it here. At a cost of,
I had that,
What is
27,250.
That's correct.
at a cost of $27,250.
That's it.
That's the motion on the table. Is there a second so we can discuss?
A second.
Been seconded by Brownie, so let's discuss. I suppose in terms of discussion, the primary discussion would have to be, I guess, twofold. Number one is, are we sure that it's been green lighted by the state and the county? And secondly, what are the other bids and why have we selected GWE? So, Mark, are we sure?
Yes, I've gotten both approval and I have documentation from both the state and from the county that we can go in and do what this specific proposal is for, and that is for planting around the edge of the marsh and also cleaning out a waterway that is specific in size to the interior of the marsh. That has been approved by the state and the county. I got the 3 bids. I asked for 4. I got one person that did not give me a bid. The other bids are close in nature if you add them together, because at one point in time, they said, let's not do the plantings, but that I made sure that there was a waterway cleanup bid and also a planting bid. GWE came back to me after it was all approved. Lisa Lockmer, who has been part and parcel to this enterprise since she gave her report at the annual meeting of the members, asked for the proposal to include 2. The one thing about GWE is that he definitely will go ahead and for 2 years, they will ensure the survival of the plants that they put in, and then they will maintain the existing waterway, which currently, if we had to have our companies do that, the additional charge over those 2 years would probably be that or more, in my opinion, on top of what they're already charging of the 20-some thousand dollars. So I think GWE has given us a very good proposal. I don't think we don't have to pay for it all up front. I think we'll pay for the first part, which is the labor and materials and chemical treatment. And then the 2 years of quarterly, they can go ahead and bill us those out over time.
Is there any any more discussion?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. I have one comment question. When this first came up, I believe at the annual meeting, there were pictures of it. When it started, it was all no marsh, no nothing. It was all water. Now, it's mostly all marsh. I just want to make sure everybody understands, and the people listening understands, that we're only clearing very minimal amount of the marsh. We're not getting rid of the whole thing. Isn't that correct, Mark?
That is correct. That's why you see on the page 8 of our report, it shows the project map, and you can see the outline of the waterway there that's been outlined in the middle of the marsh. And you can see the blue and green line around the edge where the plantings would take place. I use this exact map to give to each of the other companies so that we would be bidding all on the same scale.
Yeah, I understand. That's all that's all we're allowed to do, correct?
Correct.
So I just want to make sure everybody listening, that's what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are expecting the whole thing to be clear. And if we don't do it that way, they go, oh, here we go again. The board didn't listen to what we're doing, but we want it. So
And the state specifically has given us the guidelines for that, and the county agrees with the state.
okay, I just want to make sure the audience, whoever that is listening to that and not saying we're not listening to what they told us to do.
Agreed.
Well, yeah, I think you're making a good point, John. I guess, I mean, what I'd love to hear, but I won't, is that Lisa and the other drivers of this project are on board with what they're getting. They're getting the plantings and a waterway of some width through the marsh, but essentially that wheat field is going to be minimally reduced. But so that's what they're getting. Do they know that?
I think that's what I know that Lisa Lockmer knows that because she's been in touch and in contact with all of these people from day one. So I'm sure that she's very much aware of how this is going to end up being.
She's seen your plot map? You've seen this, she's seen this drawing?
She's the one that helped get it in the first place and send it to me.
Okay. I do have one question, I guess, for Mulligan. Is this something that could be paid for out of reserves? It's really fixing up something that changed. Should this be reserve money?
No, I don't believe it should be. It'll come out of our expense or something, because we don't have this in reserve. We don't have marshlands in reserve, just like we don't have irrigation in reserve.
Well, sometimes we've done things in reserve that aren't exactly in there, and we've had things in reserve we haven't done. So there's always the option if this is something. I think there is some lake money in the reserves, right? As I recall, there are some items in there regarding the quality of the lakes. So, I mean, in a general sense, this could be viewed as an improvement. I mean, not as an improvement, as kind of a replacement. We're going back directionally the way we used to be. So I would.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
We did allocate it for long-term capital, did we not? I recall that.
We thought we had some money in
board
there for
meeting?
that. So yes,
Yeah,
we have funds available to do this. And
okay.
I think it's good, but I just want to make sure that people
Yeah.
know that it's
This is
not going
what
to be
it
a
is.
lake.
Yeah,
All I'm saying is we got some other projects on the thing using up our capital. If we could, again, I think this would be appropriate to look at it as a.
Why don't we let Molly decide
We'll
what
look into
pot
it.
it
Yes.
comes out of? If there's reserve money for it, that's the best. But if there isn't, Molly will take it out of wherever he has to take it out of. And
Well,
if that's long-term capital, it's long-term capital.
well, let me go a little bit further. I would like to ask again, and I know you suggested it yourself, John, that in the monthly treasury report, you include a report also on reserves been spent, what's left for the year and all of that. And I noticed it wasn't in this month, so I'd like to see that. And also with our history on the irrigation and some of the feedback that we've got about the boards not doing their job by having this irrigation project covered long, not that the present board, but the board for 20 or 30 years hasn't done their job in having irrigation in the reserves. I really think the board needs to take some time in looking at the reserve and understand what's in there and the types of things are in there and how it works, that we've been a little delinquent in just ignoring the reserves, which is really a big item, okay? John?
Yeah,
About,
I agree. I mean, we look at it every year, Brownie. Every year we look at it with our outside consultants.
I've been on the board 5 years. The board's never spent a minute of time looking at the reserve list in detail and how it's done and what's in there. And I also brought up the question of monthly giving us the status, what's been spent in the reserves for the year.
I will do that, Brownie. I forgot to do that this month. I will plan on doing that. Okay.
All I'm saying is, in the 5 years I've been in the board, there's never been a minute discussion on any detail of looking at the reserve and understanding exactly what something is. And there have been items where we've kind of used money that maybe wasn't directly for the item, but I look at it almost a category. Like I said, there's some money in there, I think, for the lake. So I think the board needs to look at the whole issue of reserve and make sure we don't have another irrigation situation sitting in reserve.
Staff, I think you have a motion on the table with a second,
Yeah.
but I don't believe we voted on it yet.
No, I know we haven't. We've got a little we took a small detour. So would you, damn it, I keep losing this. Suzanne, would you repeat the motion?
Sir, a motion was made by Mr. Calucci to accept the proposal from GWE for the Mark project in the amount of $27,250, and it was seconded.
Seconded, it's been discussed. All in favor of approving that motion, raise your hand and say aye.
I,
I believe it carries unanimously. That's great.
And I have noted
That's
that Lindy is no longer in the meeting.
Okay, so it's 8-0.
8-0.
Mark, do us all a favor. Would you have a talk, now that we've approved this, would you have a talk with Lisa and whomever else she needs to consult with, just to get a nodding of the head that they know this is what was approved and this is what they're getting? Would you do that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll email her and along with the approval of this specific proposal. And I think that there's going to be happiness because this is what they want. But I'll make sure they get it.
I'm just following up on the point that John was making. You know, we're not getting an empty lake.
Got it.
Okay,
Understand.
all right. I believe the next item for business is landscaping. That's up, that's up to me. Let me give you a summary of the report. Then I'm going to make a motion that you all approve these projects with the understanding that if you start asking me the difference between pygmy dates and Christmas palms, I'm going to be totally unable to answer. So, because I don't know anything about the specific types of plants. Anyway, the landscape committee has done a lot of work, made numerous trips around the community to identify areas that need work, established priorities, got estimates, worked very closely with Mike from Expert Landscaping, and change these estimates where we could to keep an eye on the budget. So the committee is now asking for approval of the following projects for the first phase of their charge. Number one should be no surprise to anybody that the center medians along Sterling Oaks Boulevard, or from Sterling Oaks Boulevard to the entrance of Deer Creek, are in desperate need of attention. There are 5 medians along the stretch. A design has been worked up between the committee and expert landscaping. And the cost of bringing these 5 medians up to par so they don't look as poor as they do now is $21,412. The second project, and most of you seen this as you're driving along Sterling Oaks Drive and you're going by the maintenance yard, you've probably seen at the end of the maintenance yard, but prior to the all-season fence, there's a lot of ugly utility and cable equipment boxes that are quite an eyesore. And there's not much we can do about it since there's an easement that they can't be covered completely. However, we can obscure the view by plantings in 6 different spots for a price of $5,089.50. The third is the area behind the clubhouse, starts outside the door of to the activity room and continues along the windows of the building. Dead plants need to be removed, sod planted where needed, and a cohesive design implemented around the triple palms. The next area looks towards Sterling Oaks Drive. Again, the area needs to be cleaned up and new plants installed at the base of the palm trees. The next is the area north of the bocce courts. It has overgrown flowers that need to be removed. And 2 levels of flowering plants be installed under the palms on either side. Finally, the area where there are teardrop shapes of grasses in the midst of the pavers, they're recommending decorative spindles to outline the grass so foot traffic and carts will stay on the pavers. These items is $4,576. And number 4, the parking lot for the clubhouse on the east side. There are 4 islands in this parking lot. According to the county rules, parking lots must have so much green space. Each of these islands will be the same with a certain type of grass, ringing it with plants in the center. Additionally, there's an old tree stump in one of the islands that needs to be removed. The price of that is $2,376. The total cost of these 4 projects is $33,453. Again, it's been approved by the landscape committee, endorsed by the committee and the chairman, Linda Moxley, and has been made working with and in consultation with Mike from Expert Landscaping. So therefore, I move that we approve $33,453 for the landscape improvements that I just outlined for all of you. That's the motion.
Second.
And it's been seconded by John. Is there discussion?
Yeah, I got that.
Just FYI, their
Yeah.
budget, I think their budget this year is 60,000.
Yeah, okay. That's my question is, this is coming out of the budget landscape replacement account 6778, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it's coming out of that budget, yes.
And we have, Mark said, I think 55 or $60,000 in that, so we're way under budget at this point, so.
Question. Does this
Ronnie?
include any needed irrigation improvement in these areas? And I'm not talking about the main lines, but
I know.
do these already have irrigation or they have to add irrigation?
No,
I know there's irrigation for the medians.
Yeah, I know. I was asking for all, I'm not sure. There's probably irrigation for number 2. Number 3, I don't know. Number 4, those little areas, I'm not sure about those either. So
I do not know the answer to the
there's no
question.
sense doing it if it doesn't include irrigation,
No,
if we need additional irrigation.
all areas have irrigation.
Okay. It's
Okay,
important to know they won't have to add, or if it does, they include it. Okay.
Correct.
One other question I had on number one. I agree with the sight of those, but I'm a little leery that we need more palm trees anywhere. I know along that stretch, there are lots of palm trees on both sides of the road itself. I'm just questioning really the need for palm trees in those fairly narrow medians.
I don't think, again, I'm an amateur on this. I don't think a Christmas palm is one of these big palm trees. Do you know, Mark?
Christmas palms are called Anidiad palms. They're the same palm trees that are currently right behind the clubhouse that are, there's a couple in the pool area, but they're the self-cleaning, smaller palms.
Now,
I'd
how
have-
tall are they, Mark?
What?
How tall are they roughly?
As tall as they probably get is about 24 to 30 feet max.
They're still pretty large. Those are pretty large. The pygmy are probably shorter. I'm not sure what. But like I say, we've got a lot of palm trees along that stretch.
We are in Florida.
No, along that specific median stretch from Boulevard to Deer Creek. They're on the sides. They're on the sides of the road. I'm not sure.
I think that the interesting concern, what I'd like to do, I suppose, is get this, total passed and let me go back to, Linda and Mike from Expert and question them about this, Christmas palm, which seems to be the item that we're discussing, whether or not that's appropriate. Correct, Brownie?
I don't know what the root system is, if it could cause.
I don't know.
The-
So let me go back and just,
I mean, I'm willing to
Check
approve it
this.
as long as they reconsider, we really want to put any more tall palms down that stretch, okay?
that's what I'm suggesting. I'll do that.
Hey, Chap.
Yes.
Chap, I have another question.
Okay,
Chap, you mentioned the teardrop areas, the grassy teardrop areas and the pathways, and you wanted to outline them or put some type of a trip hazard, I'm going to call it, around them to keep people on the paths. Our lawyer up here just went through something similar. People trip over things that they don't see well. People trip over things that they're not paying attention. We have a lot of activity back there behind the building. And if you are adding any kind of outline around those two areas, will it be a trip hazard? How high will they be? What did you have in mind?
can't answer the question. Let me see, you're talking about the decorative spindles to outline the grass, so foot
Correct.
traffic and carts will stay on the pavers.
Correct.
I don't know the dimensions of that. I will I'll follow up with Linda and Mike on that to make sure that we're not creating a
Trip and
trip
fall hazard.
hazard, which would lead us to problems.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
I agree. I'm thinking about where we had those concerts. There's a lot of people out there walking all around, and of course, it's also drinking going on and dancing and everything. I think John might have a good point. To think carefully about that.
all right, so the follow-ups on this, if we pass this motion, are to re-examine the wisdom of more palm trees and these, and tall palm trees and these islands, and to examine the decorative spindles to make sure we're not creating any trip hazards, which could lead us to legal problems, correct?
Right.
I'm more than willing to do that.
The spindles are there so the grass will grow in. They'll be removed whenever there's any event or anything taking place on that area, so that there will be no trip hazards there. They were just going to be so that as the zoysia was planted to redo it, that it wouldn't be walked on and trod while we're going through the grow in. And then they'll remove those spindles to with the ropes in between whenever there's any kind of event or any kind of gathering on that, whether it's bocce, a concert, or any other event.
But
Good
I
answer,
think the
but,
problem is when there isn't any other event, is there something sticking up
Right.
that could cause a trip?
No, I think that these are hit you in the probably either above the knees or in your waistline.
Let me follow up on that. Dr. Coyle, I'll follow up on that for you.
Sure. I'm what this is going to look like now that Mark's telling us that it's going to be waist high. I can picture myself walking around and seeing this, and yes, you want the grass to grow, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be very good to look at.
No, I don't think it has to be there forever, just like there's nothing there now. I think that they're just
Right,
trying to get the
nothing now is
grass to
good.
grow. That was what I was understanding. Now, if they want to keep them there full time,
Just getting the grass to grow.
but if it has to be there full time,
Not
then
full
yes,
time.
we have to take a hard look at that, because there's too many people walking around that area at different times of the day that we'd have to take a hard look at that. I agree.
Let me follow up. So I'm hearing a couple different things here. I mean, your interpretation, Mark, is whatever this is temporary. Is that right?
That was my understanding, whether or not it is, but if it isn't, then we really need to take a hard look at it, because as John said, we don't need people walking in and walking around and tripping over it. And secondly, we don't need it looking like something we don't want to see out back there.
Okay, I understand. Sounds to me as everyone's fine with that as long as it's temporary. If it's meant to be not temporary, then we got to find something else to do there. Okay.
You have a motion.
So there's a motion on the table to approve these 4 projects. There's a couple caveats, which I'm sure you'll let me follow up on, for a total of 33,453. It's been seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand by saying aye and say aye.
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 All opposed? None, so motion carries 8-0. 8-0. Okay, I believe, Mark, we can go back now to the general manager's report. And perhaps there'll be another action item there, depending upon how you want to handle the kitchen floor issue. So Mark, why don't we turn it back to
The
you?
kitchen floor issue is honestly, it's in the reserves and it's well below Paul Goodrow's 9,999 value. I would ask that Mulligan or Paul Goodrow probably appreciate that we get that done in a timely manner. But anyways, I'm going to move forward with my report. Yes, the sidewalk repairs have been delayed, but we have been in contact with Ron Martin. He is just behind, and of course, the weather seems to delay things. It will get done this summer. We have other areas that have come up since we first marked those sidewalks. So we are going to make sure that the other areas that are currently either sunken down, raised up, or have root problems. We found some in Silver Strand where people have done new driveways and need repairs to the sidewalks as well. So we'll get those done. The valley curb gutters are broken up in a couple areas throughout the community, and those are still on. We're just waiting for that contractor as well. Clubhouse roof. Clubhouse roof is actually going to be started on next Monday. Saturday, they're going to be mobilizing the trailers and dumpsters into the parking lot. And then they will be closing off the porte cochere and moving the tiles into the trailers and dumpsters at the porte cochere area. And that's going to take place for about a week or so. They are going to take and move all the tiles off the roof and put them onto the porte cochere area. So DR Martineau is going to be doing that. There will be limited access. The lobby door will still be open. You just have to come in from the tennis court side, from the east side, walk up that sidewalk. There'll be no cars being able, of course, driven under it, and the west side from the pool parking lot will be closed, so we don't have anybody walking up while the tiles are coming off. And then they'll put the dry in on, and then they're waiting at that point in time for the tiles to arrive. So that's going to happen this next week. We've gotten a list of items from the pool lighting engineer. We're having to get him the plans and the pool specifications, the different, I guess, sizes of the lights that are currently there, the spacing, etc., how the pool was constructed with that in mind. And then he's gonna, once we have all that together, he's gonna come out. He'll give us a quote for an inspection to try to figure out how we can move this through the county to get and then through the DPBR to get a night swimming permit. So we'll keep you informed as we go through that process. The bocce pergolas, I'm still waiting on the engineered drawings. I would like to submit those whenever the SDPI for the pickleball goes in, because it's all for the same recreational tract H. It really shouldn't be anything except for a nod of the head from those folks because of the other work that's already been done on that tract H. And I am going to try to get this pergola person to repair the pergola that's on the corner of Serenity Circle and Sterling Oaks Drive, which actually is in the reserves on it. The water feature of the clubhouse is completely torn apart as far as the plumbing's concerned. We have discovered a number of anomalies that have made this an interesting project so far, but we're moving forward with that. And we hope to see that come together by mid-July and have water flowing and the fountains going and have it looking a little better. We're going to be working with Mike from Expert and the Landscape Committee to look at the overall look and feel of the landscape around it. There's an enormous amount of really dead and old plants that need to be removed, and a lot that needs to be replanted there. So they're going to go with a more minimalistic look and a more clean and open look, as far as what I understand the landscaping committee has looked at. All right, so the Marsh project is all done, which is great. The last thing is the clubhouse kitchen floor. Kitchen floor is 24 years old. It is in the reserve study for 25 years, but it's gotten to the point where the health department is starting to say, you're either going to need to replace it, regrout it, do something with it, because it can't be cleaned that well. We've had acid wash, pressure wash, you name it in there, but those old grout lines and those old 24-year-old tiles have just taken a beating over this time. We're going to put an epoxy floor over the top of it. The company that's doing it has done a lot of work at FGCU. We have referrals and references from the maintenance department and from people at FGCU that give this guy great high marks. So he's also half the price of the other people that have looked at it. The third bid, which we have not included, was complete demolition of all the flooring in there, which means we'd have to take everything out of the kitchen and lift it up off the floor completely, including all the stainless that holds the dish machine, etc., and sink and plumbing. And then they wanted to demo the floor and then resurface it, and that would have been about 40 grand. So the $5,600 that we see that includes the surfacing of the outdoor waterfall is something that we're going to move forward and get done. I think that that's something that's it's a no-brainer at this point in time. So yes, I would ask.
6,500.
Yeah, but that includes the outside.
Yeah, but you
water.
said 5,600, 6,500.
That's correct.
Okay.
And that is my report.
I've got discussion on the kitchen floor, okay? Mark, I've heard about for 5 years, we need to replace the appliances in the kitchen, okay?
The what?
The appliances in the kitchen, the cooking stove, et cetera, refrigerator.
We've been replacing those on an ongoing basis. We got all brand new ovens last year.
Okay, so that's been, I heard that in the last month though. So my concern was we don't want to epoxy that floor if we're replacing appliances, which may not be the same foot though, and we should get any kind of additional remodeling done before we do the floor.
No, all of the existing equipment that we got is all on casters. Everything rolls around. It all has quick disconnects. The only thing that's kind of on the floor is the dish machine area. The only thing that I've ever talked about is that the actual layout and footprint of the kitchen is the same as it has been since day one, which really can't be changed unless we change the hood system, and that required an enormous amount of remodeling. So therefore, that's not part of anything that we're looking at. This is simply a repair and refresh to make sure that
Okay, that's
the health
what I'm
department.
saying, that footprint thing, you keep pushing, if we're gonna consider it, it would be,
You're not you're talking just like we did in Plan A. The remodeling of that kitchen, even in the renovation, was somewhere an extra to $60,000 to $80,000 minimum, just to rearrange it a little bit. It still wouldn't have changed the hood size or the cooking equipment that's currently in there. So that's why we haven't gone anywhere with that.
okay.
Okay, well, in order to keep Paul off the hot seat, I would like to make a motion to approve $6,500 for Alessandro Carlo Monte for the resurfacing of the pool or of the kitchen floor, as well as helping us with doing the primer work for the outside fountains. $6,500. That's my motion, even though it doesn't.
I'll second it.
Even though it's under
Second.
Paul's. Okay. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Aye. Motion passes, although not necessary. Paul will appreciate it.
Hey, Chap, can I ask Mark, do we have anything on the pool order or not?
No, well, I've given Adrian to pass along to the rest of the crew a second and a third company to have them look at what they currently were asking for from commercial, whether or not those dining chairs were, and I can't remember the model style. Let's just say they were Elantra, that they need to go to these other companies and see if they see something that's similar to the Elantra style. Give me that what that number is, whether it's a Avante or whatever, and they need 16 tables and so many chairs or whatever it is of that style with that fabric. I'll take that to the those companies and say, what say you on these different things, just so that they have a sort of apples to apples comparative.
But aren't we bought into that company since we already bought from them? I mean, are we gonna mix and match at this point?
We bought it, well, we bought it from two companies, actually three, if you want to include some of the umbrellas over time. Telescope
Yeah.
has those, but I'd rather stay away from that because they're up in New York. At least these two companies are both here in Florida. Admiral and Commercial. I just think at Admiral, what we had was, we had a lot of problems with those slings, and people were getting tired of them. They wanted something different. That's why I contacted Hershey from Commercial to try to see what he could do, and the people liked what he provided. So, but in you know, if you're asking for $30,000 for the stuff, I think that, you know, there are quite a few people that say, did you at least try to match it up with somebody else to try to get some kind of comparative bid? So
Yeah, but time wise, if we wait a whole nother month, are we gonna be able to get that stuff in before season? That's my concern.
you know, I can't, I honestly, I can't answer that.
Yeah,
think
but
what
so
we
we'll have a
should do-
motion for next meeting. Is that what you're telling me?
I think you should have a motion for next meeting. Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
if Adrian and Lauren and the gang can at least just peruse those online catalogs and do some you know, comparative stuff. So here's the stuff we want from Commercial, and here's what it's
okay.
like in that thing, and they look the same and the same fabric. I can send those away to those companies and get a quote, which that'll take less than a couple of days. So I can probably have that stuff back very quickly.
But we couldn't approve it till next meeting, right?
Well, you'd have to have a special meeting.
Well, let's get the quotes and then we'll go from there. Paul wants to have a brief meeting. We'll go from there.
All right. With that, let's go back to the treasurer's report.
Oh, Well, can I cover one more action, possible
Oh,
action?
sure.
I was surprised there was nothing on the agenda about the pickleball courts. We're running out of time. The worst thing we could do is put them in, but not be available next season. So is there some kind of status on how that's moving?
Well, if Suzanne's still with us, I think she can comment better than I can.
Sure. I'm out of the office this week, so I'm working remotely. So I haven't been in complete contact, but from what I have, and I haven't had a phone conversation with Welsh as I've been out of the office, they're not interested in bidding our project. They are out for at least 6 months. So I need to work with another contractor to see if I can get some soft bids like you guys recommended at the last board meeting.
I also have been interesting enough, the Brooks, which you know is Lighthouse Bay, Spring Run, Copperleaf, etc., has put in the paper. They have a very large bid package for expansion of the pickleball courts at their place. They're accepting bids at the Brooks. Those are sealed bids with a deposit, and the deposit is non-refundable if they're the bidder. So I know that some of these larger companies that are doing pickleball work are not only bidding in Pelican Bay for the $5 million expansion that they have. The Brooks is probably somewhere, I imagine, the $2 to $3 million or $4 million expansion. So there might be some difficulty getting some of these contractors to come into our arena at this point in time. So I just saw that, and I was given it out of the Naples Daily News the other day. So that's just FYI that there's a lot of competition out there right now.
So can I interpret that as it's going to be very unlikely we have the pickleball courts next season? Is what I'm hearing.
We already anticipated this, Brownie.
Yeah, John.
Brownie, we already anticipated that. We didn't think this would be happening for this season. Just because of what Mark was talking about, what Suzanne was mentioning, the people who come out and bid, they tell you right out that it won't be for a couple of months. They won't get a chance to look at it. And everybody's putting in pickleball courts right now.
So for those members
We did
that happen
anticipate this.
So for those members that happen to be listening, we still want to do this, but at this time we're having a difficult time getting not necessarily a bid that we can live with, but we're also having a difficult time getting bids, period.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yeah, like I said, I'm out of the office this week, so I'll dig into it more and have some more information prior to the next board meeting.
okay. All right, with that, let's go to the treasurer's report.
Okay. We're doing well still through May. Our operating cash is 774,000. Total cash is 1.8 million. Long-term capital fund is almost $400,000. In the month of May, we had net income of $18,000 versus a budget of minus 10,000 for a favorable variance of $28,000. Tenants had a favorable variance to budget of 13,000 for the month. Year-to-date favorable variance to budget is 19,000 on net income of 58,000. Once again, this is due to increased non-resident membership. Social was on budget for the month and has a year-to-date favorable variance to budget of $35,000. May saw a considerable decrease in activity as well as profitability, as most people have gone north for the winter. This was expected as usual and budgeted accordingly. Common areas had a favorable variance of 28,000 for the month and has a year-to-date favorable variance of $21,000. Once again, there are a lot of ups and downs and several accounts, but expect to be on budget by year end. G&A had unfavorable variance to budget for the month of 10,000 and a year-to-date unfavorable variance to budget of 35,000. Part of this is due to sewer repair and timing of expenses. Year-to-date net income as of 5/31 is 92,000 versus a budget of 34,000 for a favorable variance of $58,000. We're only 5 months into the year, but I do believe that both tennis and social should remain favorable throughout the year, and the commons area and G&A should net close to budget. Any questions?
All right, with no questions, is there any other old business that we need to deal with? Okay, well, I think we're close to the end. I think the most noticeable thing that was absent from this agenda, which we'll deal with at Paul's request at the next meeting, is to finally make the decision on what the terms are for the new non-resident tennis members. That is still up in the air. And I know Paul wants to be part of that discussion, so that will be dealt with at the next board meeting. Okay, with that, the date of the next board meeting is July 27th.
I believe you guys noted that you wanted to have a board meeting after the special meeting on the 17th.
That's what I remember. I thought we were gonna combine the two same day.
Right.
Sorry, that was my typo on the agenda. So it was July 17th
17th.
after the adjournment of the special members meeting.
Yes.
Okay, July 17th.
And the special members meeting is at 1 o'clock on the 17th.
And that's a Monday.
Yes.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I didn't make the. Rick has moved that we adjourn. I second.
You second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. See you all on the 17th.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, see you.